Hey there, YouTubers. This is Kevin from Survivor Super Fun Time Show, and today is an amazing day. I have someone here who is a huge icon in the Survivor community, in my opinion. This guy did amazingly well during Survivor 45. He kicked 16 asses in the game, okay? One, I'm leaving out because it's his own, but he made it pretty much as far as you can without winning. This guy found an idol. This guy earned another idol during the Sandwich Revenge arc. He avoided losing his votes multiple times throughout the game and was a part of arguably the greatest alliance in the last 15 seasons of the game. 15 years. I don't want to age you too much here. 15 seasons of the game. And I'm thrilled to talk with Austin Li Coon of Survivor 45. Thank you so much for joining the program. Look at this. This is a challenge you won, buddy. Look at that.
That was one of my favorite moments of the entire, like, being able to do the Michelle puzzle was the greatest feeling. I think every single one of us, once we saw that we were doing the Michelle puzzle, was like, we're kicking it down if we win. Every single person is going to kick it down, like, if they won. So I'm just very honored to have been able to do that. Thank you so much for the intro. That was like probably the coolest intro I've ever gotten in my life, and so stoked to be here. I know we've been talking a lot on Instagram and everything. We've been waiting to do this podcast for a while, and it's finally here. And like, we found a really good episode to do it for. So it's going to be a fun time.
We found an amazing episode to do it for. And Austin is right. Yes, I've been basically fangirling throughout 45. I DM'd Austin and multiple times. I'm like, listen, dude, you are killing it. You're doing awesome. And if he at all saw the channel, which I know he has at different points, I think Austin was my #1 ranked from episode 1 to like maybe episode 11, whenever the Julie vote happened.
Yeah,
that's when you went down a couple. But otherwise, I was like, this guy's a badass.
I appreciate it. You were my top supporter, one of them. I mean, like, you were always putting me top of the power rankings. I was like, okay, like, thank you for the support. Thank you for seeing the work that I'm putting in. So it meant a lot. And of course, obviously, I was going to do a podcast with you. It's just a matter of time.
And I appreciate that. The way I see it is I wore you down with my fandom. Maybe that was it. But no, like, and like on a real note, and I appreciate you saying a near the top support. But truthfully, you're right. I mean, the biggest thing is I saw you were putting in the work. There were other people that were doing well in the game, no doubt. Like Kelly was a pretty big internet favorite for a long time because she was also doing really well. Yeah. Emily eventually got, to the point where there was the evolution, I guess, of character, wow. And I just kind of made that phrase up. I feel pretty proud of that.
Wow, on the spot.
And then Dee obviously was doing super well in the game along with Julie. But ultimately, when you try to look at people who were stacked with pathways to the end, I was like, Austin constantly keeps kicking ass. And he's always an individual immunity threat where some other folks probably are not going to be depending on the challenge. So that's where it was very easy for myself. And the one thing I cannot let go away for folks watching this is, even though there was a lot of idols and challenges involved in the success of your game, you were incredibly sharp, and you were a part of keeping one of the best alliances together. But aside from the Reba 4, which is the one people remember the most, when you and Drew went to Bello, it was very up in the air. It was Brando and Kendra who had existence before together, and then there was also Emily in the middle. So you and Drew had to convince Emily that it was better to go along with you two than the other two. And I'll tell you straight up, I thought Emily would probably err to their side.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And that's true. That was, I think, a really big turning point of the season. I mean, Emily was never going to go home that vote. It was always pretty much like Drew and I were like, it's either one of us or it's going to be a Bella. Like, we are not writing down Emily's name. Like, we need her right now. And it really could have gone either way. I mean, you saw in that episode where, Brando ended up going home, was like, they were playing really hard. They're, Brando, Kendra, they're great players. They were convincing Emily. They were like throwing these lies at her to convince her that, like, oh no, Drew's not trustworthy. Austin's not trustworthy. Honestly, though, I think what it came down to is, like, we convinced Emily that she was part of our long-term vision. Whereas Brando and Kendra were more like, you vote with us now. We'll help you out when we can for the next couple or something. But we kind of, Drew and I were like, we'll go to the end with you kind of thing. And I think that was the main difference that helped us through that vote.
Yeah, you sold a much better package. And I wonder if Emily, because like also going along with that maybe she was worried once the Bellows kind of meet up, she's like, okay, well, they're going to cast me aside based on how this conversation is going.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, is like, I think from the outside, especially early on in the season, it looked like Bello was not fractured to anyone outside of Bello. Obviously, within themselves, they knew that they were very fractured, but they gave off a story that they were really strong, that they were willing to take Emily and knock out all the Rebas and work together. when in reality it was sort of swapped. Like we gave the impression that we were really cracked, and they had a lot of fractures, and that we were willing to vote out anyone out from Reba. But I think in the reality is kind of flipped. Like, you know, Bella was saying that they're good when in reality they were fractured. Reba, we were saying we were fractured, but in reality we were really tight. And I think those stories really also were a big selling point for Emily.
Absolutely. I'm very happy she went the way she did. I was pretty stoked to see you and Drew live another day.
Oh, imagine a season if Drew left there. I would have been crying. I don't know what I would have done. Like my boy Drew out, and it's just like, what do I do now?
That would have been honestly, that would have changed so many dynamics. Yeah. I think because I'm sure you would have clung to Dee and Julie, Julia as it got closer there. But the problem is you also had less maneuverability. At least freely with Drew, like strategizing. Well, actually, it would have opened up your maneuverability. Now that I think about it, you would have been trying to make side deals with other folks. Yeah. Emily probably would have become your 2.
Well, I don't know. Not if she voted out Drew.
Well, I mean, yeah. Sometimes you got to act like a dog a little bit. I think.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I mean, I don't know. And then, you know, if Drew's gone, maybe we're less willing to sacrifice, you know, J Maya, Sifu, and that they might have, like, you know, replaced Drew. Who knows? I mean, that would have been
a great game of what if, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a bajillion what ifs you can do with Survivor. You know, that's why it's so fun, because it's just like all these hypotheticals. If this happened, if this person drew that rock, if this person was on that tribe, it's like so many things. And, you know, I think the cast of 45, like if you play the season, if you simulate 100 different season 45s with different tribes and everything of the same cast, I think you find like at least like 15 different winners. You know, it's like, I think so many people had what it took to win the game. And, you know, it's just these minor changes that happen that kind of change the needle to go one way or the other. So it was a lot of fun. And, you know, the what ifs, they're endless. They're endless.
Well, here's a what if for you then, just because you kind of broached it. So let's say the 45 cast, you play 100 different times, you get the Men in Black, wipe your brain every single time. Who do you think wins the most frequently?
I mean, you've got, like, I think both Dee and Kelly had a very similar style of game. And both of them are games that would have been pretty successful on average with our cast. I think our cast is very much a social kind of, like, we focus more on the social side of the game, I think, for our cast. And I think they have excellent social games. And I think they both have a, you know, a good head for the game. I think they, you know, it's hard to not say Dee, given that she did win. So I think she's got a good shot at getting the most wins. Kelly's got another good shot of that. But, you know, I think there's people who would be not too far behind for sure.
Because I have to tell you, I always wonder, I'm a huge fan personally. Like, as a fan of the game, I can't really say that I was like a massive fan of Hannah Rose, because Hannah Rose, you know, she was gone episode 1. Personally, I love Hannah Rose. Now I wonder if the conditions were slightly different and she had felt a little more comfortable. I see so much potential in Hannah doing well in this game.
No, I think she has everything needed to, like, be an excellent player. Had she, you know, been a little more prepared or whatever, like if the conditions were right and she didn't quit, I think she makes a good case for being, you know, someone who wins regularly. You know, because she is a really funny person, fun to talk to, you know, like, she's just a great presence. It's just unfortunate that she wasn't, it wasn't for her.
Nah, yeah, it happens. And I love that on social media, for anyone who doesn't pay attention, she leans into it a lot now. I think she feels pretty good about where she's at, because initially people were kind of over the board and honestly kind of losers about her episode. And now, thankfully, I think she feels good, and the community's really happy to have Hannah Rose in their lives.
Oh, we're happy that she's on our cast too. So
absolutely. Survivor Bird Island. Absolutely. I love it. You know what? Speaking of, we were talking about fractures a little bit. I'm super interested. I think the best way to kind of to start talking about 46, because this episode is a little difficult to kind of go through at times, because it started so early. Like, the immunity challenge was like 10 minutes in.
And the tribal council started like halfway through the episode.
I know. It was pretty gnarly, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I have to start with this topic early on, and maybe we'll touch on it and kind of go back a little bit. I'm going to try to attack this chronologically, but I feel the first thing that happened in the episode that's noteworthy, that ties into really everything, is really talking about Venus. Venus is someone who's definitely become a pretty big character. She was significant early on in the game, even when her tribe didn't have to go to tribal. Nami literally never went to tribal council, so we didn't know where the line in the sand was. But this episode really starts off with her getting 1 vote in the previous tribal, and right away she goes, Soda, I think it was you. And then they have a little fight about it. So immediately, I guess you have to say, how do you feel about that approach, considering the situation for Venus in that scenario?
I think, and honestly, I think that was a terrible thing to do. You don't want to. I think like when you get kind of blindsided, whether that's getting your name written down, having someone who's your ally get sent home, the last thing you want to do is just, have a blow up like that. And like, it wasn't even Soda who wrote her name down, but because you said, Soda, this was you, Charlie has way less of an incentive to be like, actually, it was me. I did that. It worked out where Charlie, ended up being honest and saying that, but he did not have to. And like, if Venus played her card saying, I think it's Soda, Charlie no longer has to worry. Like, does she think it's me? Does she think it's me? He could just run with that. So like, you don't want to give people any information unless you have to. And telling someone, I think this person wrote my name down, that's giving free information to people that, is not necessarily true. So I think you got to keep everything close to you. You got to just sleep it off and try thinking, running through your head what it could be. And then having like one-on-one conversations with people to try figuring out who it was instead of like saying something in front of multiple other people.
Venus doesn't seem like the sleep it off kind of person to me.
No,
I have to say.
And we can talk about it later, but with the whole like, now she's in like this whole battle with Tevin about who gets credit for that Soda vote. I mean, I just think Venus is just willing to fight anybody, which makes for great TV. I think that's why she's probably the main narrator on the Nami tribe, because she has conflicts with every single person, which is very entertaining, but not.
Oh God, it's so entertaining.
Yeah, but not necessarily the best game moves.
No, well, I happen to agree with you. But again, I haven't been out there. You live the life, and I'm talking to a guy where obviously the vote went when Drew was kicked out.
Yeah.
And you didn't know it was coming. The night after that tribal, I've watched the video because I made a compilation of Austin. I watched some of that footage, and recently, and you took it super well for probably being furious and. Like that is textbook what you do after that vote, I think. So again, a testament to you in your game. You walk the walk basically. And I happen to agree.
I appreciate that. Yeah. You don't want to burn any bridges. You want to always make people think that you're willing to work with them, even if you're not willing to. And I mean, Venus did a good job with Charlie being like, hey, I know you voted for me now, but I still could work with you in the future. And if you're Charlie, that's like what you need to hear. Because if you don't hear something like that, whether it's true or not, you want to get rid of Venus. You're like, I burned the bridge already writing her name down. If I don't get her, she's going to get me. So Venus going to him and being like, we can work together. I think that was a good move by Venus to be able to just suck it up and say that to him.
But like you had said, but from Charlie, why even bother? Why mention it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the one thing that is hard to sort of like realize, I guess, like for me, before I went to play, it was like how much of a weight lying like puts on your shoulders. Like when you lie to someone, like it drains you and you think about it for a while. And like the more you lie, the more you get kind of like pulled down by these. It's so much easier psychologically to just say the truth. Cause then you're just like, I'm not hiding anything. Like I've said the truth. I don't have to like be worried about like, being found out or whatever. Like it's just out there. So it is the easier play 9 times out of 10 to just tell the truth. It just is that the best move. And I don't think it was for Charlie, but it didn't bite him. So
no, Charlie somehow came out of this episode really smelling good because somehow, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, but he gets put into a group of 6, gets put into a little tribe, a little group where he's somehow the only Siga in the minority, and he's basically in control with Maria. And I still can't figure that one out entirely, other than people are overplaying.
I think I totally agree with you. I think one, it's like, Nami never went to tribal, so they still have all these fractures. And then one thing I found really interesting with that, and I don't know, we can talk about this later too if we get further into the episode, but like I feel like they told the perspective of that. I felt like they should have, or like usually it'd be in like, Charlie's perspective, like I'm on the bottom. all the votes should be going to me. I have to make the moves to make it not be me. But I felt like it felt like it was like a battle with like Venus and Tevin and Soda and like them going through their internal struggle with like, it almost felt like Charlie was like not the main kind of perspective being shown during this, even though he should be, because he should be going home most of the time in this situation, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it seemed like it was very obvious. Charlie seemed to understand that it was probably very obvious that he was going to go. And I think, I mean, again, looking at it from fan perspective, Charlie looks like he's got long-term potential in this game.
Yeah.
And not going for him versus a Soda, which it sounds like Soda was also playing a great game. That spins off into a whole other topic for me, which is related to Tevin. And I can't say I fully understand all that stuff. But you know what? Rather than me trying to go chronologically, maybe we should approach these topics a little bit more. Because if we go chronological, I think it's gonna get a little bit messier than I want to.
Okay.
So we'll continue with that tribal council, the Soda tribal council, right? Yeah. So the build up to it, initially it seemed to make sense. Soda was like, listen, Tevin, we got to get rid of Venus. We know this isn't the thing. This should have been Charlie, but we got to go for Venus because they just can't trust Venus. Like they're not, even though they run the same tribe, they're not a number. It's kind of like when you all were talking about, you know, or we're referring to probably like well, I don't know. Who on Reba would you have said around Murgatory would be part of your tribe, but not a number, like a J or a Sifu? Or
honestly, I believe they were both still numbers for us for a little while longer, at least. We knew that Jay was kind of shopping around other side alliances, but we felt at least when we voted her, she was still wanting to work with us for a little bit longer. So I don't think there might be a comparable for us. You know, Reba was lucky we had like a very cohesive group.
Reba was great.
Yeah. No complaints with Reba.
Yeah, Reba. God, if there was no swap, I'm convinced Reba never would have lost.
I don't know. I mean, like, I was confident whenever we got to if we got to the puzzle tied with others, like we're not going to lose because we've got so many geniuses. You know, J Maya, Drew, Julie, we're all puzzle beasts. I'm not too bad either. And like we were usually getting to the well, I'm no Drew when it comes to puzzles, but I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm not a liability, but I'm no Drew.
No.
You know, I'm not gonna.
You saved your vote multiple times on like on like get out of here. I don't want to hear that. Hunter couldn't even get the logos in order, and you're out here solving these like goofy equations.
I would have way rather had the math equation, the logo. I did it myself. I paused it and I did it. I beat Hunter, but I still got like I think like 5 or 6 out of order. So like
wow,
that was a tough one. Like,
yeah, I felt for Hunter on that one. Because like myself, I could have done it. However, like you're being penalized for not knowing the entire history of the show, and that's kind of unfortunate. Like that's not fair.
Yeah. It's tough because I heard Jeff have a take on it. It was like, yeah, if you give them math problems, like some people just don't really know the math. Like what's different about learning math versus learning the logos or you know the season? I don't know. It's just like a different skill set. It's just so I don't know. I'm not sure.
It's what type of nerd are you is really what it comes down to.
Exactly. And there's nerds like, you know, Survivor nerds, there's math nerds, there's, you know, puzzle nerds, whatever. So it's just like, they're all different skills. I think they should all be tested. But I do think that was kind of really hard.
That was a tough one. And it's a shame too, because that's like the only like black spot on Hunter's record. He's been a beast up to this point. And it's been interesting seeing that shake out. And he's the one right away I was worried for at the merge. But now I guess he's got an idol, which the way he found the idol, I thought that was kind of BS. I'm like, oh, it basically says go to the stairs and dig it up.
Yeah. I mean, I was a little upset. Not gonna lie, I was annoyed when I found these idols. Like I had to find a beware advantage. I had like to decode a message on the flag. I had to dig for 5 days. I had to hammer some rocks, and then I got an idol that expired after 1 vote.
Yeah, honestly, you got so boned. Like the fact that it worked out for you, it's amazing. It's like a miracle almost.
It was a whole side game I had to play. Like I was like, okay, how do I do this idol management while playing this game? You know, it was you know the most nerfed idol in Survivor history, and then all of a sudden now they get full idols right away. It's like what the heck? That would have been amazing.
I couldn't believe it. During 45, it was a lot with the idols. To the point where I like the fact that you came away with it clean it's amazing. You end up with 2. You got
Oh my
two
gosh. I
eventually.
didn't even want that second one. I was like, I don't need a second idol. I just want allies. I just want this sandwich. Like, I don't need 2 idols. And you know what? Having the 2 idols, I think ultimately hurt me, because then when Julie needed an idol, I couldn't have been like, I only have 1. I'm gonna hold on to it. Maybe I'll play it on you, give it to you later. But I had 2 idols. I was like, what? I'm gonna like fight you so I could hold on to 2 idols? Like, of course, I'll have to give you this.
Yeah, and I remember among fans, there's a big controversy. They're like, "Oh, and Austin gave up the better idol,
Yeah.
because he's such a dope." And
Yeah.
I was just like, "Are you serious? Like, trust the guy
That
that
one,
earned the
yeah.
idols."
You know, I understand where a lot of like criticism comes from. But that one is like, who in their right mind would just like give the stronger idol? Like, just
Yeah,
because, you know? It's like,
like
you don't even have
there
to
was
be
a
a good
restriction,
player
right?
to do that. Yeah, yeah. The amulet was non-transferable. So it was like I couldn't give that to anybody.
Mhm. That's a
But
shame that you couldn't just be like, sorry, they're both non-transferable." But
yeah.
or you could, I guess, you could have just, well, actually, hypothetically, could you have done the Sarah Lucina where you gave her the non-transferable one, but didn't tell her that part, so that when she goes to play it, she can't. Well, you wanted her to use it though.
Oh. Well, I wanted it to be flushed. Whether it meant she was voted out or she used it. But yeah, I've thought there what ifs for that too. Like, what if I gave a fake idol? What if I did whatever?
Big
But
time. But you also
it's
very much wanted to keep her in the game. It was still early enough that you wanted
we
the
were at a
number.
point of the game where she was, we were the Reba 4 still. Like, we wanted to work together. We had each other's backs. To me, it was really no question that I was going to give her the idol, because I promised early in the game. She helped me find the idol. And we had all been playing straight up and loyal with each other. And I think because there was never a hesitancy, like, that's why we were able to keep working together, because they knew, like, I was being truthful. I knew they were being truthful until the very end when the lies had to start coming.
Yeah, when that fateful day comes, they're like,
Yeah.
well, maybe Mama J is looking pretty good right now for that
Yeah.
vote.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
understand that. And honestly, I think you all were dead on right for that, but it just, it just didn't work out.
Yeah,
You had a
exactly.
snake in there. Indeed, it happens. So actually, kind of going back to the numbers and everything,
Mhm.
and I guess the snake. What kind of perplexed me about the whole leading up to this vote, the soda vote, was Tevin. I understand how it looks like soda maybe she was playing a social game
Mhm.
that was actually so good, but it was so transparent
Yeah.
that she was becoming a big threat, to the point where Tevin was like, listen, I don't trust Venus, but I don't want to vote Venus. And I don't want to vote Charlie, who's a Siga. So 2 people that probably aren't my numbers, but I do want to vote Soda, who is one of my numbers. I'm trying to reconcile that. And I don't know if you've thought about that at all. What leads you to that conclusion at this early stage?
To want to vote out one of your numbers.
Yeah.
I think, because Reba, we were in a situation where we voted out our numbers. And the
Mhm.
reason why we did that was because we wanted to appear as less solid, as fractured, as if like we're willing to vote our own people out. We're not a big unit. We're not a big block. I'm not threatening, because I'm just like, willing to work with other people to vote my own people out. So I think it could have in his mind been a play to lower his own threat level, to like detach himself from someone. Like, if it was obvious to people that Tevin and Soda are working together, he might have thought this could be bad for my game. If people are lumping us together, they think we're too powerful. They're going to go for me before they go for Soda. So I should just knock out Soda first before they think to get to me. So that could be what he was thinking, I think.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
but it is interesting.
Super interesting.
I do think he maybe was a little aggressive. I think most of the time it's better to vote out not your number than your
Yeah.
number, but there are niche situations where it does make sense to vote out a number. Like, if you feel like you have a lot of different paths to the end or whatever, but it might be a little too soon. And it seems like Nami is already very fractured. So if I were him, I would want to hold on to the pieces that I could trust.
Yeah, I mean, because now I don't know what it comes down to. I mean, maybe he can trust that Venus isn't going for him and going for other people. So I guess it's
Yeah.
not his number, but it's not his number, I guess.
Yeah.
And Liz, he seems to be ride or die with Liz, like in a
Yeah,
really
that
low
came
key
out of
way.
nowhere, huh? Like that
Yeah,
that alliance or that grouping, like, I didn't really hear too much about Liz, but now, like, when I first, like, the first couple episodes, I was like, Liz is on the block. She's gonna go home. any point now. But now I'm like, she's got legs to make a deep run. She's playing an excellent under the radar game. All she has to do, is just make a couple moves at the end. And I think, as of now, she might have the social capital. She can keep a Tevin around, and like if Tevin makes it to the end too, full of blindside on him, that could be all you need, So
huge. It could be huge. I mean, it's in the beginning of the game. I think a lot of the feedback was like, "Hey, Liz is being really stupid for talking about how much money she makes."
yeah.
And it's funny because I think it was all part of a strategy. I think a lot of things Liz says are misunderstood that are big statements. Like the biggest one from this past tribal. I mean, she was like, "Hey,
Yes.
I didn't even bring my bag. I'm going Nami strong. So suck on that."
That, I mean, props to her. You have to be brave to say a statement like that out loud. Cause like, I don't know, if someone says that when I'm like at tribal, part of me is just like, I just want to vote you out right now just because you said that, it's like, what the heck? But so it's like props to her to be so confident to be able to say that and to walk away scot-free. So
yeah, it looks like it worked out perfectly for her.
Exactly.
And I did. Oh my god! If you don't follow Liz on Twitter, she's amazing. She dunks on fans all the time. It's the greatest thing.
Oh, I love that. Sometimes a fan or two needs to get dumped on.
Oh, hugely. There's so many fans that need to be put in their place. Like I think I think today at some point someone was like, how stupid it is that Liz said she didn't bring her bag. And I think she responded like she said something along the lines of like, use your brain for like a second and think about why I may have said that out loud. Like, is there any reason other than the obvious surface thing why I could have said that considering the outcome? Like, and that's one of those things where I'm like, good. Because there's too many early on in Survivor 46, and you all, I mean, obviously you can speak to your experience, but early on in 46, the cast I think was getting it from the fans a little bit.
Yep.
And to some degree, I say rightly so, because the show was edited to almost be sad with how much Yanu was getting beat down, and it just it was a weird watch in the first couple of episodes. Now it's great, but I love when castaways talk back. Because if you treat it like a wrestling match and you're a heel, it's so much better.
Yeah. No, she's that was a good move. I mean, like, I assume it's to make Soda feel safe, not play the shot in the dark. But it is really easy for people who don't take the time to think of that to just be like, why would you do that? Like, you're so annoying. Like, vote her out. Blah 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 blah. But yeah, so there usually is a reason behind doing something like that.
I think so. And Liz has certainly found a way to build herself up to the point where, I try to think about week to week, episode to episode, where the long-term viability is to get to the end.
Yep.
And I don't see any reason why she's going to go anytime soon.
I agree. I don't think her name was brought up like episode 1, but since then, not at all. And the person who brought her name up, wasn't it like Tevin? And now they're working together. So
yeah,
it seems pretty safe to me. The only thing is, I don't know if she has the power and influence within the group to be able to run a play on her own to spearhead that. But who knows? Like, she's certainly in a pretty good position. Like, I think for my power rankings, she has climbed up like every single episode. So
big time.
Yeah.
I think I had her, I literally just did it. I think I had her 6th or 7th, which is huge considering the people I have above her, like Tiffany, Kenzie, Hunter, Tevin, Maria. And I don't even know if there's another one, maybe Q possibly, because I'm a huge fan of the Yanu 3. The Yanu 3 right now, to me, they're almost bulletproof, except for Q. It looks like he may be kind of bungling it a little bit.
Aggressive. Yes, that'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think he could potentially be on the block soon, if not next episode. But
he for some reason, Tiff and Kenzie look like they're getting a little tired of some of the conversations.
They've been through so many tribals at this point. I don't blame them to be like ready to start attacking their own like that. I mean, I think Nami might have shot the gun a little too soon, but Yanu, they're veterans now at this, so I can see it happening.
Honestly, that's something that I think I've been thinking about ever since the Brando Vote, where these 3 were here and they won and they got to stick around. I was like, come merge time, like it's great Nami didn't like won a lot and they didn't have to go to tribal, but
Yeah,
they're not used to it. It's a whole different vibe.
it
You know,
is.
you have to navigate it along with these are wily veterans. This
Yeah.
is the LeBron James, the Sidney Crosby of
Oh,
the
yeah.
sport right now, and they're going up against these Wembanyama or whatever. LeBron, I'm still picking LeBron over Wembanyama in the finals. Okay, do you
Yeah,
mind?
yeah,
Because he's got
exactly.
miles on the tires,
Exactly. You
and that's
know,
what I think about Yanu.
I think it is an advantage for sure. I'm excited to see it because I mean, like, I remember my first tribal council. You're just like in awe of the set. You're just like, oh my gosh, Jeff's asking questions. You're like, how long is this gonna go for? Like, how do you go up and write your name? Like, how does that whole thing work? And you just have so many things in your head. It's whereas Yanu, who's been here 100 times, they could just sit, relax, and like play the game, play the tribal council. Because you know every time you're with other people talking is a time where you can play the game and make moves. And tribal council is no different. Answering the questions the way you want it to be answered, saying things you want to say, like. And I think when you're going through it a lot, you're a lot better at that and more natural at doing what you need to do at tribal council, which is another reason why Liz making that claim on her first tribal council. Good for her. Like that's a move someone who's been to a lot of tribal councils would do. So
Absolutely, that's like a Boston Rob 3D chess kind of move.
yeah.
Honestly, I have to give it to her in a big way, and I just don't see her going anywhere for a really really long time.
I agree.
And if she makes the final, I mean, right now we can say she, like you had mentioned, maybe she doesn't have the cachet with the group to pull off a big move right now on her own, but you know, getting there is 90% of the battle. So
And it's still potentially too early to make a big move anyways, because then people look at you and get you out before the end. So it'll be interesting to see who starts taking charge the next couple episodes, because my prediction is whoever tries taking charge and gets their vote to go the next episode or two, they're not going to win.
You think so?
I think they'll be seen as too big of a threat because of whatever move they did, and they'll be cut off before the end. But who knows? That's just a random prediction.
Speculation then. So who do you think is most likely to try to do that?
I think what's going to happen is with that whole Venus Tevin kind of exchange at the end, try and take credit for Soda. They looked, they had shots of Tevin being like, what the heck? Like, she's taking credit for this. Venus obviously took credit for it. And I could see them butting heads publicly about this, and that causing a big thing where they're going after each other. One of them will win, and then whoever wins will get knocked out shortly after. That's just like that's kind of what I think is going to happen. But
who do you think is going to win that? Who thinks the one that's going to get knocked out of those two?
I've been going back and forth. I was actually thinking about it. At first, I was like, I think Tevin will win that battle, but now I'm leaning more that Venus might win that battle. I mean, I don't really know why. It might just be because of the edit. She's getting all this content, all these confessionals. They're going through her perspective. I could see her winning one more of these Nami battles before getting picked off for being too big of a threat. But at the same time, I do think Tevin might have some more social capital with the group. So who knows? But that's also dangerous because people could be like, he's too socially competent.
I happen to agree with you. We're almost 100% in agreement. My answer in the beginning is Tevin. And I don't want that to be the case. I love Tevin. I think Tevin's great. But I can feel it. If there's a guy who's in what I think is kind of pole position, from an overall influence standpoint in the game, he's the one I would probably point to. I mean, he doesn't have an idol, but he does have an extra vote. And he's got a really powerful alliance member in Hunter and Liz, it looks like. I could even see Liz getting rid of Tevin, personally, because I think Liz would be able to. I'm going to use the word tolerate, and that's my word because I think Venus is someone you have to kind of tolerate in the game. I think Liz would be willing to do that in order to get Tevin out because I think she's pretty shrewd. But like Tevin's the guy. Tevin to me is like Kelly on your season. Someone that I think could can work with everyone, has good relationships, but they peak a little too early and they got to go.
Yeah, they're almost too obviously good at talking with people, and that's really scary. So I mean, like, I really enjoy Tevin. I enjoy most of this cast a lot, and Tevin, very interesting. I don't want him to go, but in my eyes, he's too obviously good.
Absolutely,
obviously social. He obviously has a bunch of alliances, and if I were on the beach, I'd rather him go than Venus go, at least in the near term.
Oh, me too. And I made this comparison last night and today. I was like, every time with every passing episode I see Venus, all I can think of is Abby Maria from Survivor Philippines.
Oh yeah.
Every time. And like I give Venus a little more credit.
Yeah.
But they're the same, especially when she sat down with Maria and Maria had to tell her like the way you come off when you're talking is aggressive. It was like when Abby Maria and Denise from Philippines were it's the same thing to me.
Yeah, and I respected that a lot from Maria to say that to Venus, because that's potentially hurting your game to be like, I don't like the way you came up to me. I don't like this. Like, that's a scary conversation to have someone, especially because they're cross tribes. They don't know each other super well yet. But at the same time, if I were Venus, I'd be happy that Maria was like being straight up with me and being willing to share with me why she doesn't trust me or whatever, because then you can start building towards it and fixing it. But it is scary to say that. Like, in my mind, it was like, it's almost like you don't want to say mean things to anybody, like whether it's true or not, because like any reason that you can give someone to want you out, like they could take it. So like props to Maria, because I don't know if she did that as a game move to tell Venus, but more so just like, I think she's just like a really good person and wanted to just be straight up.
I agree. She's I think she's her job is parent coach.
Yeah.
So maybe some of a little 50-50 came out, just like Denise was a therapist. So
that's a good point.
Sex therapist, I think specifically.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how that really applied, but it's probably transferable. She talked about that a little bit with Abby, and that's probably why she was able to have those conversations.
Yeah.
But to Venus's credit, like you had mentioned earlier, Venus has heard some harsh feedback and has moved on from it in a way where she kind of course corrected. Whereas like Abby Marie, just a little, maybe not as much. She kind of stuck with when she was angry.
I do think Venus has a really good head for the game. I mean, her reads have been all, if I remember correctly, correct. I mean, like she's kind of like, I remember even early in the game, she was like, the way she was talking about the game and approaching the strategy was very, like, I thought very strong. It was just the kind of like the social nuances, which might be the reason why she's kind of hard for her to get like a lot of footing within the tribe. But I do think she has a good head for the game. She's been making a lot of the right reads and the right moves so far. So
I happen to agree. I think the only read that I can recall was getting wrong the Charlie Soda vote.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
that's it. I mean, but outside of that, though, I mean, I think she understood where she was on Nami.
Exactly.
She understood that Randon was like her
very self-aware,
maybe only hope. The problem is she can't stop herself when she knows.
Yeah.
And that's something. And, you know, I give a lot of credit. It's a Blaze of Glory strategy. She's like, listen, I want to go for Charlie versus this easy vote because I don't want to just sit around and go with it. But the problem is that, you know, the classic vote, the classic line is to get along, you go along. And she is not very interested in going along, even though it probably would help her.
Exactly. You know, it's tough because it's like you need to make sure you get the moves on your resume while at the same time not becoming a big target. And it's like, when's the best time to do that? If you do it too early, people might see you and snipe you. If you're trying to do it too late, everyone's trying to do a move really late. Would you even be able to slip it in? It's just like so much game theory. Like, when do you pull the trigger versus when do you allow yourself to be a number for someone else?
Well, what's interesting is to tie into your season, when this happened, Venus taking credit for the move that Tevin probably made. We'll have to see how it unfolds, but right away I thought of Emily taking credit for the Bruce vote.
Yeah.
And was that as pivotal in the actual game from your perspective as to why Emily probably ended up being perceived as a bigger threat as I thought it was as a fan?
I think it actually did have a big impact. I mean, we were all surprised how much she was trying to take credit for it. Like, she was very excited. And like, I don't know, like when you do a big move, at least whenever I did like my moves, I would always downplay like my role in it. Like with the Kelly blindside, with the Brando vote, I would always tell people like, oh, you know, yeah, like we did this, all of us did this together, blah, blah, blah. And like, I was trying very much to be like, no, it wasn't just me. She was very much like, I did this, like, this was awesome. I'm so proud. I'm so happy, blah, blah, blah. And then that's when people kind of were realizing like, Emily has probably the best story on this beach to go from where she started to now running votes. And it was kind of at that moment where we were like, she can win this game. And for a while, Drew, and her were sort of thinking like we would go to the end together. And like all of us, including Emily, if you ask her, I think, even though we all want to go together as a final three, we all thought Emily wasn't going to win that three. It'd be between me and Drew. And up until that moment, and at that moment, it was sort of like undeniable where Emily has an awesome story. And if she's in front of a jury, especially with a jury who's favorable for her, she has a really good chance of winning. So
the internet would have exploded if that had happened.
Yeah, I
know. It would have been like, oh my God, Flippen Mania. The story has been finished.
Yeah, no, she has such a crazy, amazing arc. Like we all loved to see that. And like we were so excited to watch it happen. And it was even crazier watching on TV. Like I didn't realize how bad she was day one. Like I heard stories that like, oh yeah, my tribe wanted me out. They didn't really like me. I wasn't meshing. But to see it on TV, it's like, wow, how did you make it this far? And how
she was rough.
Yeah, she was rough.
She was rough. I love Emily. If you happen to watch, I know you're not going to watch it, but Emily, if you see this, I love you. But it was a tough start to the game. It was probably. I also love Jelinski, but it was probably worse than Jelinski. If Hannah Rose didn't see her way out, I don't know how Emily would have stayed.
I agree. No, she was going home by all accounts, but I mean, you love to see it. Like she absolutely changed her whole game and perception, and like very few players, I think, could do that arc that she did to go from the very bottom to where she ended up. Like she's an amazing player. And I think it tells a lot about who she is as a person to be able to adapt to that and like take the feedback in real time on TV, on Survivor while starving and like make the adjustments to by the time she went to Bello. I remember Drew and I were like, why do people have problems with her? She seems amazing. Like she's so much fun. She's fun to talk to. She seems so normal. Like that was both of our reactions. So she was able to really make it a 180, just like very, very effectively and efficiently.
The reshuffled Bello was a fun tribe.
Yeah.
I have to say.
I agree. It was fun. Yeah. But those are some of the most miserable days of my time out there. But that's for another conversation.
That's right. That was day 10, day 11.
Oh.
Yeah. We're all just sitting down talking about food, and that was around sandwich time.
Yep, sitting talking about food. We lost the reward for fish. I got sandwiches taken from me. We had to go to tribal council. It was just like a bam, 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 bam. Like we were beat down by the end of that.
I still love that journey. You're like, honestly, I'm thinking sandwich. Am I really? Yeah, like, they don't know. Like, dude, bro, I'm stacked right now. I don't want the sandwich. And one of the most astute things to come in the new era was your confessional right after that. You say, I don't see this as a symbol of an alliance. I see this as a symbol of a war. And you were dead on because there's no way you all were going to agree on that vote.
There was no chance that.
And it just made you a bigger target.
Yeah. So it worked out. Luckily, I had the tighter alliance at that moment. But yeah, it was scary. I remember coming back being like, I'm already going to have eyes on me for being like a challenge threat. Now I have another eye because I figured that Kelly was going to tell other people about it. And then if it became public knowledge that I then had this thing, it was just going to be a pain. But I was lucky where neither Jay or Kelly told anyone. So
that's outrageous. Cause it's wild. Cause as soon as you came back and you told Drew, not surprisingly, deciphered it immediately. It was like, oh, so we just need to vote the other two out.
Hey, that's why he was my number one. He always had my back. There's no question. It was like, yep, okay, let's get him out.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So to pivot a little bit, and I'm gonna try to get through topics a little bit more quickly. Although
I'll be more concise.
No. Listen, Austin, I could talk to you forever, but everyone's got lives. I don't know what you're doing. I don't want to take up so much of your time. If I can help it, but maybe I can squeeze another like 20 minutes out of you. That would be huge.
Yeah.
So a pivot, talking about that a little bit, because I think you got pretty lucky overall, having Drew go with you to Bello. Now to pivot that to 46, the Yanu 3, I've kind of felt preseason we're going to be very lucky going into they're going to see two giants go against each other in Siga and Nami, and Yanu gets to sit in the middle. But with the way the Mergatory is, and then the split vote after that, you don't really everything keeps getting shaken up to the point where it's not that easy. However, in the Mergatory situation, all the Yanu people ended up being safe. And then this episode, all the Yanu people ended up going onto one tribe.
It's crazy.
Isn't that fascinating? Somehow this little group of 3 for 2 votes in a row have had either immunity or almost total control.
We need someone to put
And
the odds on that. You know,
I
what are the
know.
odds that happens?
Think
Crazy.
about that. How? And that's where you go, like, I think the great Tom Westman, if I remember right, from Survivor Palau, one of my favorite winners ever. He said a quote, something like, Survivor's 50% physical, 50% mental, and 50% luck. And I think he's right. Look how lucky that was.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, when I knew that I was going to New Bella with Drew, I knew I was going to be safe. And I'm sure Yanu, when they're getting thrown around together, like that is every time, because that's what happens when the votes get split up, when you have to vote with like 6 people, you know, who are available to choose from. A block of 3 is as strong as it gets, really. You know, it's like as long as you stick together, you're not going home, you know, unless for like a rock draw, but like no one wants to do a rock draw. So it's like you have so much power all of a sudden. And I'm just curious now. It's like it's very clear to the viewers how powerful Yanu is. Like, are the rest of the tribes going to realize that and start, like, is there a world where Siga and Nami work together? Like, can that even happen? Or have they been going against each other so clearly that that just never going to happen and there's no hope? And Yanu's going to continue being in this power position.
It's a great question because I just don't see it. It's fascinating because I don't see where they're gonna get this tension drawn. No matter how desperate and how obviously Banu made it at that one journey.
Yeah.
They're over that apparently.
Somehow. And it's crazy because the only people who've said any one of their 3 names are themselves.
Yeah, Tiff and Kenzie are like getting tired of Q.
Yeah. So it's like as long as they stay together, I don't see anyone attacking them, which is pretty crazy. But I guess that's how people felt about the Reba group earlier on too. So
look at this twosome right here.
Aww, that's so cute.
I think they're in it to win it, man. I don't know.
I can see it. I mean, they're the top of my power rankings right now. I think they are the safest people on this beach.
I have a hard time saying otherwise. I really do. And part of it is I've been incredibly biased toward Kenzie since like day one.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that and aside from doing well in the game and somehow nurtured and raised baby Banu, and I don't call him baby Banu, but I'm being facetious. That I don't even know if that's the right word, but I'm being silly when I say that. She's been awesome, and she won the necklace.
Oh yeah, I love how you could just so clearly see the emotions on so many of her confessionals. Like she's being real out there. She's like taking it like really like she's all in on this game, and you love to see that.
Oh, look at those baby blues.
You know, fun story, which I'm not like positive I'm allowed to say, but like before like when we were doing casting, the final rounds of casting, Kenzie and I were together in like the shuttle over to like the hotel where we had to do our stuff. We were not allowed to talk to each other or anything. We didn't know who each other were, but we both knew that we were doing the same thing because, you know, we all have to wear masks and stuff, but it was at a time where like not many people were still wearing masks out in public. And like, we were both sitting, not talking to anyone, not making eye contact. But yeah, we just got shuttled in to do the final rounds of casting together, ended up on separate tribes. So I'm kind of, you know, part of me is rooting for her too. Like, you know, maybe she'll get second also. That'll be fun.
Yeah, if she, I mean, she could. I hope not. I think Kenzie in front of a jury is gonna do great. But the problem is, I think Tiffany would do great. That's where it gets a little difficult too.
A lot of the people on this season, actually, now I think of it, would put up a really solid final trial performance. Like I think they've got the chops to do so.
How about this guy? He gets in there. If he gets in there, I would
be so excited to watch him do a final tribal performance. Like, you know, full on hand gestures, acting, different voices, impersonations. Like, I want to see it all.
Oh, he would be so good. Yeah. You know, I have a general rule of thumb, and you could tell me as someone who's been at tribal. Well, you've been in it, and you've watched back, and you've listened to feedback from folks. I have this rule of thumb. Generally, if you get the jury laughing, you've got it. Like that's how I feel.
You know, I think if they're willing to laugh at you, that is a huge sign. That means that they're probably not too bitter to vote for you. So then you pass one of the walls to get their vote. And then, you know, but then again, it's like Jake got the jury laughing a lot, you know, but unfortunately didn't get any votes. I guess fortunate for me, whatever. But
Myth
Yeah,
busted, I
I
guess.
think making them laugh is one part of it. If they're not laughing at anything you're saying, it's a bad sign. But if they're laughing, doesn't necessarily mean you win. But if they don't laugh, you lost.
No, that's awesome feedback, because there was a couple of votes in a row, a couple of final troubles in a row where I was like, okay, this is looking the case, because I think Marianne, obviously she snatched it at 42, 43. Gabler shocked the world. With that one shocked me. I thought Cass was going to win, and then 7-1. And then 44, Jam was getting people dying, where they're like, hey, why should we vote for you? He's like, because I'm pretty,
Yeah.
and he's great. And
that was a great voice impersonation. Like that was awesome.
I toned it down incredibly, because I don't want to. Because I was like, oh, I don't want to pretend like I have any kind of Puerto Rican accent or anything like that. I'm not gonna be that smug. Now, what the voice that I do like is Gabler. I usually don't mind doing Gablers.
Yeah.
Mainly because like I'm actually kind of buddies. I like Gabler. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he comes on a lot of your shows.
He does, and that's just because he's been a solid guy. The first Castaway I ever interviewed was him, and I just sent him around a message. I'm like, hey man,
Gabler's awesome. Like you talk to him for like 5 minutes and you see why he won.
That has been the feedback I've heard from like every Castaway that's ever talked to Gabler. They go like, listen, I talked to him literally. That's exactly it. I talked to him for 5 minutes, and I get it. Because sitting there with him and Cass looked like she did more in the game, and then you talk to Gabler and go like, all right, yeah.
Like there was that episode 1 or 2 where he's putting palm fronds on people and waking them up. It's like that would piss me off. Like you watch as a fan, you're like, this guy is horrible. Like this is a terrible player. Like who is this person? But now after talking to him, you're like, okay, that's just like he genuinely was trying to like help people, and he's always trying to help people and be kind and like thinking of others. Just that was a silly way to show it, but like,
yeah. And he's told me some other stuff, like, as we've dove into conversations. He said he also, like, one of the things that was kind of underrated, you didn't get to see as much in his game, was that he had really good relationships with everyone, and he was usually pretty upfront with them when he could. Like the Carla vote at 5. At some point, Carla was like, Gabler, like, tonight, is it going to be me? And Gabler was like, can't lie to you, Carla, it's going to be you. And that kind of thing. Like, he really didn't have any reason other than to maintain that good relationship. Whereas that's where I think like Cass maybe didn't do that as much.
Yeah.
So, and that's important. But anyway, beside the point, I love the Gabler. Now he does a little segment called the Hiding in Plain Sight Award, which I love.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's a fun thing.
That I think right now.
I know who I would pick, right? Yeah, I would pick Liz. I don't want to influence his decision, but I mean, I did make a little lower third that literally says hiding in plain sight. So I'm a little biased on this one. I have to admit that. So yes, but anyway, that piece of it I think is kind of important there. But the Kenzie thing, I talked about it a little bit earlier on. A lot of people were like, hey, she's being a little aggressive, especially around the Jess vote, the Jess Chong vote.
Yeah.
Doing the fake idol. But really that was a collaborative effort between like Tiffany and Kenzie.
Yep.
And the short memory is there for fans, because I think a lot of people don't remember that. But to be fair, I don't think there was a lot to remember. I don't think it was very malicious. I think it was just they wanted to make sure she didn't use a shot in the dark.
Yeah.
I mean, like, is that probably fair commentary?
Yeah, I think in the new era really emphasizes the need to blindside with the shot in the dark. And, we're given all these tools with now we have idols that look like just pieces of string. We have like, it's really easy to fake it. It's like, why not? Like you should do whatever you can for that extra 10% of like having your plan work. It does come across sometimes as aggressive and savage, but like the way the game is designed is you have to take every inch that you can get.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm talking to the guy that you're on a season with Caleb.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
Exactly. I'll be forever scarred with the shot in the dark. It's like that's gonna work. You just gotta like assume it's gonna work. Have backups for any time it does work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How nervous were you? Like you probably weren't nervous at all before the vote, really. Like
that one. I mean, I had immunity from being on the right side of Mergatory. We already had a backup plan set up. With Jay, like I knew she was still a number, but also by voting her out, my amulet gets upgraded. I didn't even vote that round. I just wanted it to be all votes on one so I could hide my non-vote so people didn't know, so I could upgrade my idol. So the thing that I was worried about is if the shot in the dark worked, Jeff was going to read every single vote, and then anyone who was really paying attention would be like, there's one less vote here than there should be.
And then
Luckily,
you have to start doing the lying game with
yeah.
people.
And I was really nervous about that. And actually, when Jeff read the votes, Bruce was like, did he read like all 11 votes or like all whatever votes? And then like Drew and I look at each other and we're just like, wait, what do you mean? Like, was there one vote like less? Like, what happened? What are you saying? And then Bruce was just like, never mind. I think we're good. And we were like, oh, shoot, that was close. And luckily, everyone was just so shocked at the shot in the dark working that no one was really counting except Bruce. So props to Bruce.
Yeah. Props to Bruce on that one, because I think a lot of times in hindsight, you go like, all right, for Bruce's game, he kept it pretty simple. But he was paying attention. Maybe it's because he was so emphatic about getting Caleb out of the game. He was like, listen, I'm going to count every one of these mofos and make sure he's gone.
Yeah, honestly, that could have been it. Luckily, he doubted himself. But that helped us. But like he was on to us for all of like 10 seconds.
Hey, whatever kept the team live badass, which right now I'm deciding to call you and Drew. Whatever kept you all going, I'm happy. So I'm good.
Appreciate it. Me too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Obviously for you, you're like, yeah, I was a pretty big fan of it too. I love that. But yes, but like Kenzie, now it seems like it's turned around, especially helping Ben out with his panic attack.
That was an interesting, the fact that they like, now that's one thing after playing is I'm very hyper sensitive to what they show, like what scenes they show of people. And that didn't seem to really impact this episode in terms of strategy. It seemed like just something that was thrown in there to be like, yo, Kenzie is a really good person. She helped Ben through this. Ben's been struggling. So like, I'm very curious why that was put in there, if that's going to like be something that comes on later, but it does kind of give me an idea. Like it makes me feel like Kenzie could get pretty deep into this game.
I think so. I think that's one of those things that rounds out who the person is. And you wouldn't wouldn't need to put that in there for a lot of other people.
Yeah.
It didn't happen early enough in the game where there's just not a lot to talk about. Like when Jake passed out at Bello, Kendra helped him.
Yeah.
But they didn't emphasize the Kendra part of it. Instead, they emphasized the Jake part of it. And that's probably because Jake ended up making it to the end.
It's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because I think if you are a fan of good storytelling, you can usually kind of figure out who's going to end up doing pretty well by midway, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I agree.
And it's interesting. Like I don't think I'm excellent at storytelling. I am just a wrestling fan. So I sit here and I go like, well, this guy's got to beat this guy in a different way if they're going to go to WrestleMania and all that kind of stuff.
Whoa, I love that. But no, Kenzie, I could totally see her being a fan favorite.
She's killing it.
I love how she seemed to have gone through every single emotion in this game. And it's been very fascinating watching her experience all that, like from the lows of losing at Yanu and, her famous blue eyes and crying through that to like, when she voted out Jess and to like when she was in power and when she like, won immunity. And she's been like, she's had some serious highs and some serious lows. And that just makes her a very like dynamic, interesting character to watch. Someone who's like willing to show all of themselves on TV.
I agree. And like that, I think that idea of a character was kind of blown up with Carolyn from 44. Yep. And a lot of people probably looked at Kenzie and said, it's the same archetype. Same thing with Kendra. They said Kendra was like a Carolyn archetype. I wouldn't, you could argue the archetype, but I would say they're all very different. I agree. I think they're all really positive influences. And Kenzie has been awesome in that way.
Yeah. Different players. Like, I think the only similarity is that they've got a lot of tattoos, right? Tattoos, maybe similar size. I don't know. But like, besides that, I didn't even consider them as like similar players at all. But
I think you're right. I don't think they're anywhere close.
Yeah.
But when you look at the stuff ahead of time, you're like, the initial cast releases and you see Kendra talks about being into horoscopes and stuff. And you go like, okay, well, she's a little spacey. Carolyn was a little spacey. Kenzie, that probably is unfair other than the tattoos and that she's beautiful along with the other two. But that's about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But there's a lot of cool stuff, and I'm gonna try to like we've talked about the bulk of the episode, but I guess it'd be ridiculous if we didn't talk about the folks who actually ended up being voted out.
Yes.
Which the one vote was Tim. Tim. Okay, so Tim going this vote. Your thoughts?
You know, I have a lot of thoughts about Tim. I think the split where you get two people voted out, that is, you know, the worst nightmare for players like Tim, players like me, players like Hunter. You know, people where very clearly it's like, okay, you could do well in challenges, you could be a threat, you know, XYZ. They're often targeted a lot. And, you know, I'm not too surprised this is the one where they end up sniping him because like he is a very strong player. One thing that I found interesting is like looking through his total like story in the game was like it seemed like he was never willing to really like put his foot down on like a certain alliance or a certain ally or like on a move or anything like that. And I think he was very focused on trying to like stay in the middle, stay under the radar, and stay like inoffensive. That he wasn't able to like create the bonds with people to make them willing to protect him as much as he probably should have. Like, you know, there was that whole +1 alliance, but he was a little bit shaky on that. Like, had he gone full in and been like, yeah, let's roll with this, I love it, blah blah blah, like maybe Maria won't come in with me, but I'm 100% in and we still got 5. And if he can persuade them that, I don't know if he's gone this round, but I think he was so focused on like keeping all the options open that none of his options felt like I needed to keep him.
Yeah, I think that's wildly astute, especially because like Q is the kind of guy we've learned where if Tim had just seemed solid, Tim wouldn't have gone anywhere if it were up to Q.
Exactly.
Like that's how he was with Hunter, and Hunter's clearly a huge threat, and he was just like, no, Hunter's part of the +1.
Exactly.
And with Q goes Yanu probably. You know, and vice versa, right? So like if Tiffany and Kenzie say this is what's up, Q's probably going to listen, and vice versa for the most part, unless it's a silly idea, then maybe Tiffany and Kenzie say nah, Q, but you know they'll hear him out, you know.
I
I think
didn't
you're right.
feel like he had anyone who was willing to put themselves at risk to protect him at that point.
Yeah, Maria, she seemed a little flabbergasted when he came back. And was like, by the way, we created an alliance. Maria's like, me?
Yeah.
Oh, you think we're that tight? Okay.
That's why I think it's important to like, you really have to in this game put your trust into someone and make sure they know that your trust is with them. Like you can't just play in the middle. You can't play passively the whole time. Like you have to put your eggs in some basket, and you might be wrong and that might bite you, but unless you're willing to do that, like you can't get to the end, I think.
No, it's so difficult. If you can get an alliance of 1 or 2, that's kind of ride or die. That really does seem to be the magic formula.
Yeah.
I mean, you and Drew started like immediately.
Yeah. That one, it worked out really well because I think both of us had a similar idea of like, okay, this could be like JT Steven kind of thing. And he, like, I always got from him, like, he was being straight up with me. We had good conversations. And like, whenever I told him something, like, he was like very much willing to tell me everything. And like, we would like, from the beginning, we would always be like, oh, this person said this to me. This person said this to me. And it like felt very natural and it worked out. And at some point it was just like, I like you. And like, I need this to like, I need you to know that I'm all in on this. And like when he, you know, when we both agreed to that, it was like, okay, well, we're glued together now.
Do you think it's important as a member of one of these? Do you think it's important to have your kind of ride or die be someone that you think takes up almost as much space in the game as you?
Yeah. And I think so. The reason why I think that the Reba 4 worked out really well is because I think each of us played a strong game, but a very different game. And we all felt like if we got to the end, we all had a shot at winning, like a legitimate shot to win. And I think it's because like with Drew, for example, he took as much space in terms of like strategic threat as I did as a physical threat. And it was like, we were both big threats, but in different ways, which allowed us to complement each other and kind of like work together like that. Like we're not competing. Like a challenge that I would win is not one that he's ever really worried about. Like if I like voting me out so that he could win those ones and, you know, vice versa. So it was like, it just like worked out very well where our skills were very complementary. And yet like I feel like equal level threats, but just in different ways.
I think it's pretty dead on. I mean, when you said JT and Steven, I mean, they were very much not the same guy.
Yeah.
But they had equal goals and they understood, you know, maybe I could edge out the other with just enough argument in the end.
Exactly.
And I thought that was interesting. Like D and Julie, I thought, you know, I was like, okay, they can roll with that. Even D and U could see that. And obviously there's others, but I mean, obviously the prime one I'm going to look at right now is probably these two. But aside from these two, which we're probably not going to get enough time to talk about, is Maria.
Yep, that's what I was
and
waiting
Charlie.
for. Yep,
my man Charlie over here. Look at
I
him.
love that. I love that.
Funny enough, I have to tell you, funny enough, on Twitter, me and him went back and forth like 3 weeks ago or something, because I'm a well-known not big Taylor Swift fan.
Oh
And
yeah,
she's a whatever. Honestly, straight up, she's whatever. She's fine. But the problem is, in the first couple episodes, Sega had like nothing to talk about, so Charlie became the Taylor Swift guy.
yeah.
And I was
worried
like,
that was gonna be his whole story.
yes, exactly. That's what we went back and forth about, by the way. I wrote a tweet when he jumped off the thing. It said Taylor
he did that
Swift
to himself.
I agree. And I quote tweeted it and I said, listen, I said, boy, I really hope moving forward, it's not going to be this way. I can't wait till they have to go to tribal council and I can learn something about this guy other than that, because I think there's a lot of potential there. And, we went back and forth a little bit and, fine. But basically I was saying like, no, what I'm saying is, of what I've seen in the edit, which is not your fault. You've probably talked about it for like 1/4% of your time out there. I saw you and Ben go back and forth naming songs. You said you got your Taylor merch. It's all I know about you so far. And I would like to learn more. And you know what? These last 3 or 4 episodes, I really like Charlie.
Yeah, I think they're really starting to show his strategy through his narrations and through his confessionals. They're really showing his perspectives on things. Like early in the game, it's very much like, oh, Taylor Swift, or like, oh, like, good vibes, like love the tribe, like that person. Now it's like really we're seeing the meat of his strategy, which has been really fun to watch. Whereas, like another one of the Sega members in Ben, I feel like a lot of his content is still like less strategic, more personal, about like getting over these obstacles, about like, he had all the Metallica stuff. Oh, there it is. Perfect timing. We had,
boy, are we in sync right now? You want to call me Drew, boy?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm very curious to see when more of Ben's strategy is going to be coming out too. Because I feel like that trio of Maria, Ben, and Charlie, they might all work together as a trio now that there's only 3 of them left. Like it was like Charlie and Maria, but then Charlie also had a thing with Ben. Like it would just make so much sense if that then combines just to be a 3, so they can compete against the Yanu 3. So
I totally agree. That would be such an awesome 3. Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah.
And Ben's another guy I see, like, why would anyone I know he's constantly in the line of fire, but why would anyone get rid of Ben?
At this point, I don't know. I mean, he's clearly struggling. He hasn't been shown to be a challenge threat. Like, yeah, he's social, but you've also got guys like, Tevin out there who are just as social. So like even that is less of a glaring threat. So I would be very curious to see that. And Maria, I think, is an incredible player. Like I think she's up there and most likely to win this whole game. I think she's really smart. I think she's under the radar, like strong physically. And like, I think she will be a threat in every challenge. She will be like the bodyweight challenges, the balance challenges, the puzzle challenges. Like she could crush every single one of those. And she's
big
really
time.
Good. And she seems to have a great social game too. Like I don't think her name's ever been brought up. You know what I mean? So
I don't think so. And think about how in hindsight and at the time, how brilliant it was. She gave up her extra vote. And now she doesn't have that extra thing. People can go like, oh, well, let's take account of who was on that journey. Yep. Who Jelinski gifted the votes to. Tevin and Maria. Oh, Maria gave up her vote already. So just Tevin, you say.
Yeah. I'm surprised that was not brought up yet. Unless it has been and they're going to show us another episode like, oh, this conversation happened. If that happens, then I will like put my stamp down. I think Tevin goes home in whatever episode that extra vote gets brought up.
Honestly, I think that's a really good indicator.
Yeah.
I think you're dead on about that because they really haven't mentioned it in a good little while,
which I didn't even think about until you just brought it up. And now it's like, I wonder why they haven't showed that yet. And when they do, which they should, because it's like a serious thing, that will be trouble for Tevin. Either he uses it correctly or he gets sent home, I think.
Yeah. I have a feeling they're going to drop the hammer on him the episode that comes up. You're right.
Yeah,
which is a shame because what a narrator, what an interesting guy.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I want to see more of him. I want to hear more of his confessionals. Like he started out real strong, but I think he slowed down a little bit in the next few episodes. But I think he might be coming back up, so I'm excited to hear some more from Tevin.
It's amazing what happens when you win. Although that's a lie. You had a ton of confessionals, and Reba
Mine are
won all the
forced,
time.
just from all the idol stuff. They needed to show the idols, the journeys.
Yeah, every
Yeah.
time they tried to rob you of your vote, you had to do that.
Yeah. Oh man, the amount of times I had to talk about, oh, I have to get this vote back to upgrade this idol to do like that was half my confessionals is explaining the mechanics and where I was in this whole idol process.
It's true. I watched all of them again multiple times. I did it. It was great.
That's why you're my favorite.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, buddy. I learned there's different ways to give hearts. Like growing up, this is one. I was taught another one. Where's it go?
I think there's like one like that.
Yes. That one. No shit.
And then there's like this one, you know.
Yes, you got all of them. I learned this at work the other day.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, all three of them, I'm giving them to you. All three of them.
Oh,
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then I guess the last part of this episode, and then I have a fun game, is Soda. Okay, so Soda sadly ended up getting the exit. We talked about it a little bit. She got cut because of Tevin thinks she was playing a little too hard. Yeah, sadly, Soda I think was most popular in the beginning of the game. One for, well, really for snatching the idol from Venus.
That was hilarious. I loved that mini story arc. One of my favorite parts of the whole season so far.
Absolutely. I mean, when there was nothing else to talk about at Nami, there was the idol snatch.
Yeah, it's like, what does it mean?
Yeah.
Go after each other, which turns out they did. So it's funny how these stories they just tell themselves.
And I think it's super wild that I know they line everyone up a specific way on the mats now. Yeah. And no matter what, and Jeff was, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but after like the second snatch, like Probst could have given it to anyone else and he kept giving it to Venus.
Oh my gosh. That's a good point. Yeah. I wonder like how soon they were like, okay, make sure you give it to Venus just to see what happens. Or if it was just pure luck. But like that was I love that storyline. And Soda, she has been a very interesting character too. I was blindsided. I was shocked she went home. I thought she was going to make it a lot further. I thought she still had a lot of game left to play. I really enjoyed a lot of her confessionals, a lot of her little moments too. I was also on Team Hunter where like if Soda was singing all these campfire songs early on, I would probably get on my nerves too a little bit. But I loved as a fan watching it and just knowing that these people had to deal with all these camp songs. But I enjoyed her a lot, and I was really sad to see her go. And I thought her tribal, it was a very emotional one. And I think, yeah, like I think had she stayed in the game, like she could make a deep run, I think.
Absolutely. And to her credit, it sounded like Tevin knew that.
Yeah.
And you know, and I know it's only so much consolation when you're kicked out of the game, but you're kicked out of the game for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And that's hopefully she takes that and she can get a little excited about that, and feel pretty honorable. As Coach would say, strength and honor.
Hey, and she joins great company as a first jury member. You know, her, Caleb, both awesome characters. So I'm excited to see how she shapes the rest of the jury, because the first person in the jury, they have a lot of power. I mean, they're the first person that all these other people go and talk to, and they have a lot of influence. So I'm excited and curious to see how Soda might influence the game.
Well, it's also, when you say that, it's interesting going back to the Tevin and Venus thing. It's like, so she's going to be sitting there for the next person to come in and go like, oh yeah, Venus voted me out. Yeah. And be hyping up Venus, even though apparently that's not the truth.
Yeah. And like only half the people saw that tribal. So, and were there, like, so what do they know? You know? So
Venus may get a groundswell in the jury accidentally because of that.
But that's also kind of why I'm thinking that Tevin might try and take credit for it from Venus. And there could be conflict because of that, because like there is so much power knowing that Soda's on the jury, and whoever gets credit does make a big difference now.
Big time. And I think Tevin was smart for keeping his mouth shut during tribal, because since he voted for Venus, he didn't even vote for Soda. So he can reserve basically the right to say, yeah, no, I was totally with Soda.
Yeah.
Now that she's a jury member.
I could also see Charlie making an argument that he was the reason why Soda went home, you know, given that he was on the bottom and he needed to, you know, work some magic. So it wasn't him that got sent home. But so I'm very curious, like how that settles out. But I do think there is going to be more conflict on who gets credit for the soda blindside, because as of now, it's probably the biggest blindside of the season. Or well, there's been is that the biggest blindside so far this season?
I would probably say so.
Yeah, I think so.
So because like Gem, maybe Gem.
Oh yeah.
Gem was a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, her with that. Oh, I was so sad Gem went too early. She had some serious. She had potential for chaos. Austin.
Yeah. Okay, that one was equally as big. That was a big one too.
Jungle Gem. It would have been nice.
Yeah.
But what can you do?
Pocket. Oh.
that does hurt. I mean, which, by the way she got her idol, she freaking had to measure in machetes.
Yeah.
And Tiffany had to like decode some like Navajo World War II stuff, and then Hunter dig under the stairs. Still gets me to this day. Drove me nuts. And I like Hunter a lot. I do. I think I make comparisons all the time when people go like, oh, Hunter's this challenge beast. And not to totally kiss up to you, I go, well, really a great comparable, honestly, is Austin from last season.
Thank you. I'm honored.
Well, you won all the time. Like it's happened constantly. So there is a great comparison there. And I think of Hunter and his game moving forward, like he really needs to think about how Austin did it. Because he is an Anami alliance that has numbers for generally. Kind of like Reba. Like you were in the minority. You didn't have the Reba 4 was so strong though. And Nami, he at least has 3 pretty strong.
Yeah.
With him, Tevin, and Liz. And he's also the most obvious challenge threat. Tevin's made a point of saying if Hunter's, got the ball and the game's on the line, we're winning. So he's got to watch it, and maybe it's worth tanking a challenge or two. Because it took you it took you 3 episodes to win, right? But I don't think you tanked any of them. I think it just
and it's really hard. It's like I get like Q was like, oh, I threw that challenge. I don't know if he actually threw it, but like I get that. Like I went into the game being like, the first challenge at the merge, I will lose, because that usually gets a big target painted on you. Thankfully, it was a pole challenge. I was never going to win that anyways.
Not with the
after Kelly won that, they had huge targets because that is a notoriously brutal challenge. And to win it so dominantly, both of those women, like it was very clear to everyone that they are huge threats, and they instantly became like the biggest challenge threats just from winning that. So there is value from like throwing, a challenge, trying not to win, but it's also really scary because the worst thing is you throw a challenge, you get voted out. Then for the rest of your life, you're just wondering what would have happened if I tried that challenge,
Yeah, you were very thankful for that draw, I'm sure, because that pole challenge, like unless your name is Ozzy, guys don't really win that one.
No, my feet were beat up and cut up and blistered, so I just had to hold on. I couldn't even stand on the little things.
Oh, that was miserable. And toe. D has giant toes, exactly. So that helps a little bit. Absolutely. So Q, I don't know if Q threw it. I'm gonna take his word for it. Fine.
Yeah. Sure.
And it was smart. I don't think he probably would have beaten Maria or Kenzie anyway, so whatever. But I like where Q's going with that. Some of the other stuff, he's been a little aggressive in some of those conversations, where I think he instructs rather than converses.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's tough. The problem is he has arguably the 2 sharpest cookies in his alliance.
Yeah.
So that's that. I don't know about you, but I think that could spell some bad news to the end.
I agree. I think it's good on him to really be pushing for this +1 alliance, because I think he has a better job of getting to the end with that versus with, Tiffany and Kenzie. That's really tough. And I think I don't think he wins in a final tribal with those 2, but I guess there's still a lot of game left to play. So
Q, I like you. Not happening if you're up against Tiff and Kenzie, in my opinion. I just think they're going to be too sharp, and Q gets rattled mid conversation in a way I don't think Tiff or Kenzie do. And that's going to be huge in a final tribal. Whereas that's where I knew, like, going into the 44, Carolyn at final tribal, it's probably not going to work out. I thought she played a pretty respectable game, but like Jam, no. Heidi's probably going to be more composed, and you need to have it together. But but that's beside the point. I love Carolyn too. So anyway, so I guess moving forward, all right, throw it out there. Winner pick. Who do you think right now? Which obviously a lot can change, but use your Zoltan future making fortune teller mind and say, all right, this is who I seek the crown on.
You know what? I'm really liking Maria. I'm gonna say Maria.
Ooh, Maria.
I'm gonna say Maria.
Whoa, so throwing down the gauntlet here. Okay.
Yeah, not a traditional pick, but I really like how she's playing the game. I think she's a triple threat. I think she's still very much under the radar. I think she's got social capital to make some moves, and no one's gunning for her. So I think she's got a lot of room and a lot of potential paths to the end. Yeah, I mean, I think she's got a working relationship now with Venus, perhaps. She's working obviously very well with Charlie. I think Charlie could bring in Ben. I think it'd be easier for Maria to work with Nami than it might be for, like Ben, whose name's already been thrown out by people from Nami, and Charlie as well. So I think she's got a lot of flexibility, and she's a really good player. So I think she could definitely make it to the end and win.
I can't really disagree with you on that. I mean, she's doing great. I think she's top 5 in my power rankings. I think she slots in really well if we were to make a comparison with, I say Heidi from 44, who really just kind of stuck around, did really well. She had the alliance with Danny that kind of worked out. And I think Maria is an excellent pick. I personally have to go with Tiffany myself for right now. She laid down like one of the most like baller quotes from this last episode. And I didn't pull the clip because I was afraid YouTube would block it. But it was something like, they're focused on chipping away at Nami's numbers. She's like, I can chip away at Nami's numbers all on my own. I don't need that. And I was like, yo, she was saying this with her full chest. She believes all of it.
Yeah.
And she's probably right.
She's a powerful player. I mean, I could see her winning. I see Kenzie winning. I see a lot of people have Charlie. He's playing a really good game too. There's a lot of potential winner picks. And I love that, going in this deep into the game and for them not to have any obvious like front runners or whatever. I think it's a good place for the game to be now.
100% agreed. Okay, awesome. So I'm excited. I get to go to the game, the game show that I've planned ages ago, and Austin is being wonderful and indulging me on this. It is some good, harmless fun to play this game with Austin Li Coon, and this is going to be our last segment of the episode. So today, obviously, we referenced one of these people early on in our talk and our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Who again, by the way, Austin, did you say was your favorite player of all time?
Oh, Coach. Ben Wade, the Dragon Slayer.
Oh, well, coincidentally, we got a game today that is focusing on Coach. We call it Coach or Kanye.
I gotta say, despite being on reality TV, I am perhaps one of the least knowledgeable people when it comes to pop culture. So let's see how this goes.
Perfect. I'm excited for that. That's what we need right now. So the way this game works is I'm going to ask you 8 not questions, but 8 quotes. There are many questions. They're all quotes. And you have to tell me, did Coach say it or did Kanye say it?
I love
that. Is really all you have to do, Austin.
I'll make a fool of myself, but I love this. Let's do this.
Are you excited?
I am. I'm excited.
Perfect. Excellent. So without further ado, we're going to start off with the first question. Quote number 1. Visiting my mind is like visiting the Hermes factory. Hermes, like the mythological person, Hermes.
Wow. Okay. Well, because it's mythological, I'm going to say Coach for this one.
Incorrect. It is Kanye West.
Okay, that was my initial gut, but then it's just like, oh gosh, terrible start. All right, let's bounce back.
All right, it's okay. We can rebound. There is a prize at the end.
I can go for 0 for 8.
No, not at all. I believe in you. Okay. I believe in you, my man. All right. There's a prize at the end. Remember this. This is important.
That is important.
Quote number 2. I'm too busy writing history to read it.
Okay, I'm gonna say Kanye for this one.
You are correct, Austin.
Okay. Whew.
You nailed it. Let's go. Let's go.
Okay, 1 for 2, a little more respectable. Now I just got to get above 500.
500. I mean, any hitter will take 500. So remember that. All right. Question number 3. I cannot exist around people like that. You guys can because you socialize with them. I am so true that existing around people who smile evilly when somebody else is on their knees kills me.
Wow. I'm gonna go with Coach.
You're correct, Austin. 2 for 3.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Was that in Token Sheens? What season was that one?
I think it was Tocantins. I didn't write that part down, but I think it was.
Yeah.
It's either that or, I mean, Heroes versus Villains, I guess, is kind of a dead ringer.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Quote number 4. You're 2 for 3. 66%. 0.66%.
Yeah.
Anyway.
67, but you know.
So, this is the guy that did a math equation to save his vote on the journey. I'm gonna defer to you. All right. Quote number 4. They will become men. Well, I'm already a man. So this is just going to make me more of a man.
Okay, that's Coach.
You are correct. It's Coach.
That's Coach. Wow. That one I knew. That was the one before that I felt pretty good. This one I knew that was Coach.
I would have fallen for that. If I didn't make this game, I would have fallen for that. I would have said,
oh, really?
Yeah, I would have fallen for that.
Oh, that was for me. That was so far the most Coach one. Yeah.
Oh, well, fair enough. Coach isn't my favorite player though, so I don't know.
I would have gotten the first one right though, but I'm liking these right now. 75%. Let's go.
All right, let's go. All right, so yeah, 75%, 3 out of 4. You're doing pretty good.
Yeah, this is good. Just end it here, and that's respectable. Okay.
Quote number 5. I'm like a vessel, and God has chosen me to be the voice and the connector.
I'm gonna go Kanye.
You're correct again.
Yes,
Kanye. Man, you are showing up my game right now, and I'm very, very bothered by this. I even had God in there.
I know. That was like, is this South Pacific or not? Like, Coach doesn't sing much. He's more of like a wind instrument player. So,
well, that's very true. Okay. All right, quote number 6, 4 for 5. You got 80%.
80%. That's ridiculous. Pretty good,
It's pretty good.
I'll take B's right now.
B's? Oh, you're going A's. Look at this.
I don't know. It's impossible for me to get an A now. 7 out of 8, but it's fine. We'll get to a B plus.
I grade on a curve.
Oh shoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Quote number 6. You can throw stones at me, and I'm just gonna do this. Hit me with your best shot, Pat Benatar. I don't care.
Kanye?
Incorrect. It was Coach.
No.
It was Coach.
Oh.
2 for 7. No, 5 for 1, 2, 3, 4 for 6. 4 for 6.
Yeah.
Sorry. We're doing this on the fly. I'm trying to be hype. I'm nervous for you, and I'm keeping score.
I'm nervous too. Back to 67%.
You can bring it back to 500.
Yeah.
All you need to do is get 5 out of 8, and you for sure win. Okay.
Okay.
So you just need one more.
One of the next 2.
One of the next 2.
I like those odds.
All right. Quote number 7. I'm like a tree. I feed the branches of the people.
Oh, it's done. Oh gosh. Kanye.
Kanye West is correct.
Yes.
Nailed it. That is 5.
Woo.
5. You got the majority, and just for fun.
Yeah.
Just like Probst reading the rest of the votes.
Yeah. Let's just get. We're here for records. So when you do this game next, like the record's still, I'm gonna make it 6 out of 8, not 5.
Absolutely. Out of 8. Every time I do Coach or Kanye, which I'm sure I'll play a lot, for sure, I got to know who's going to be the best at it.
Exactly. And if so believable, I could maybe be the best.
I think you have it in you. I think right now you may. Honestly, you kind of nailed it.
I'm getting this one.
All right, final one. I'm not a fan of books. I would never want a book's autograph. I'm a proud non-reader of books.
Whoa, that is a bold quote to make.
It is.
I mean, Coach wrote a book, so this has to be Kanye.
Oh, I didn't know he wrote a book. You're right.
Woo!
Coach wrote a book. Of course, he wrote a book. He's done everything.
About him kayaking or canoeing the Amazon River.
Oh God, he wrote a book about that too.
I think so.
Oh my gosh! But congratulations, Austin. You got 6 out of 8. This guy right here, he did an amazing job. Awesome job.
That's better than I thought. I don't know a word Kanye says. So for me, this was like, did Coach say it or didn't say it?
Oh, the fact that you didn't get 2 is really good. Honestly, I sat here and I was like, all right, I wouldn't know. And I I know a good amount about Survivor,
Yeah.
but you absolutely nailed it. Congratulations, my man. And I decided as a reward, I think it's only fair that the person that is by far the most closely associated with a food product on Survivor that was kind of out there, that you should win a food product after you were cruelly robbed of some sandwiches. So I think I'm gonna get you a gift card to either Potbelly or the sandwich place of your choice.
Oh
or,
my gosh, for real?
Yeah, why not? It's fun. You deserved it. You know, Kelly and J Maya took your gift, like your sandwich from you a long time ago. So I'll hook you up with some kind of gift card or something, because this is what we do. We play games.
Oh my
and
God.
Coach or Kanye. If you win Coach or Kanye,
oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did now. Wow.
Yeah, look, you kicked serious butt.
Oh my
Look
God.
at that. So yeah, we'll figure it out at this point. I don't know what's good around Chicago, but listen, don't lose your mind. Okay, it's going to be like $20, but I'm happy to bring that $20 to you for you kicking butt.
Wow. Thank you so much. That means honestly, that means a lot. I'm excited. Like, I didn't have dinner today, and now I know what I'm gonna have for dinner.
Absolutely. Once you're done recording, you gotta tell me what you're looking for. I use Potbelly because I don't know. Why not?
Perfect. That's perfect.
Is it Potbelly good? Yeah, it's pretty good. But then, awesome job by Austin. Thank you very much, my friend. And you nailed that game. But we'll see if we have more editions of Coach or Kanye in the future. Maybe some other ones. I'm sure we can come up with a Banu or something. That would be great.
There's a lot of players. Anyone who's played a couple times, had a lot of confessionals. You could, like, Coach, you could go deep in Coach. Like, he's said so many things.
There's a huge deep cut with Coach for sure.
Yeah.
I practically went surface level for Coach at this point. It's all good. Excellent. All right. So to wrap things up a little bit, Austin, I can only thank you so much for being here and talking with me a little bit about the game. And we've been talking for a while. Obviously you did an amazing job in 45. I think it's a shame you didn't end up winning, but you're also the best second place finisher of the new era, which is a big deal because there were a lot of people that made Final Tribal that did really, really well. And it only speaks to not only how well you play strategically, but socially, the bonds that you created. It's no surprise sitting here talking to you. You've been absolutely fantastic. And I appreciate who you are and you taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you so much. Like, I mean, it really means a lot. There's been a lot of amazing players in the new era. So, just to even be on the cast was a dream come true. And to be able to get to the end, it's like, I'll be grateful for it for the rest of my life. So thank you so much for supporting me, watching the season, and like just being such a big fan of the show and for doing the podcast. Like, I love it. So yeah, I really appreciate it. It's been
I appreciate that, sir, because it's people like you would tell your story on screen that I go like, man, this is like some of the best TV out there. And people just forget about it because it's been 25 years or whatever it's been.
Such a good series. Like, it's the best show on TV. Unbiased.
Really, honestly, really, I mean, you're a little bit biased, but that's okay. I mean, unbiased myself, I choose to stick around and I think it's great. And I didn't win any money from the show.
Yeah.
I just keep giving money to them.
Well, I'm sure Survivor, the whole community is thankful for all your contributions. So I know I am.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So that's going to do it for the episode with Austin and I. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more stuff in the future. Who knows? Maybe we'll have some cool stuff shaping up with the rest of some of the other 45 cast. Because it's great when you're sitting back and you get to kick your feet up and watch the 46ers play a little bit.
Yep.
And you don't have to worry about some of the stuff and how it's going to be edited and things. So it'll be nice to chat with them a little bit more in addition to Austin. But that's going to do it. Hope you all have a wonderful day and have a super fun time. All right.
Awesome.
Take care.
See y'all. Thank you.